Всем привет, ребят! Добро пожаловать на очередной мой стрим. Сегодня у нас будет дополнение, материалы дополнительные со StarCraft 2 Сердце Роя. Посмотрим, что было в наборе коллекционном. Погнали, наверное, с роликов. Сразу сделаем все и посмотрим, что там интересного. Всех.
Armies will be shattered. Worlds will burn. Now at last, on this world, vengeance shall be mine. For I am the Queen of Blades.
Sarah Kerrigan awakens in a laboratory somewhere in the Umojan Protectorate. Was it a dream? A vision? Her memories of life as the Queen of Blades are a jumbled, mixed-up nightmare. But it doesn't matter. Now that she is free, her only focus is revenge. Open the door, son.
Valerian's orders, sir. No visiting.
Open the door.
Good morning, Commander.
Junior.
Gentlemen, the test protocol will begin in 2 minutes.
Make the most of this test.
It's your last one.
Now give us a minute.
Very well.
We're getting out of here tonight, darling.
Good. Then we can go after Minsk.
Forget Minsk. Forget all of it. This is about you and me.
Until Minsk is dead, there can't be a you and me.
I moved heaven and earth to bring you back, Sarah.
I can't watch you throw that away just for revenge.
Initiating test phase 2.
I never gave up on you, Sarah.
Don't you give up on us!
Test phase 2 commencing.
Valerian's tests prove that Kerrigan can still control Zurg, and that she is not to be trifled with. Jim Raynor, having called an end to the tests, is on his way to get Kerrigan, ready to start a new life together. But Arcturus Minsk is still looking for her.
Warning. Dominion forces in sectors 3, 4, and 6.
Sarah.
All personnel must evacuate.
This is Nova. Begin your sweep. Find Kerrigan.
Bravo team, acknowledge.
Sarah.
The killing will never stop until Minsk is dead. I'm going to make him pay.
That's enough of that. Get it together, darling.
Bravo team, come in. Are you there, Bravo? All units to Sector 6. Go, go, go!
We gotta go.
It's been a long time.
Like riding a bike.
Yep. Like riding a bike.
Raynor and Kerrigan fight their way through the laboratory, side by side. Despite the horrors of battle, they are together again, saving each other's lives and reveling in it. When they are separated during the fight, Kerrigan escapes in Raynor's personal shuttle, believing that Valerian will send a team to rescue Raynor. But Jim is trapped in a firefight, with the ever-dangerous ghost, Nova.
Jim? Jim! Where's Jim?
We couldn't get him out.
Valerian.
You left him behind!
Stand down! Let him go, Kerrigan. Valerian is helping us.
There is no us.
IFF negative. Multiple hostiles inside the perimeter.
Scramble attack response squads 3 through 9. Hull breach. Frame 7, deck 3. Defensive maneuver Delta 4. Prep all stations for jump.
No one is going anywhere until I see Jim.
Shields at 30. Failure imminent.
Dominion fleet, this is Hyperion. Cease fire. Crown Prince Valerian is aboard.
My father will sacrifice any piece on the chessboard to take the queen.
We have to jump now. We'll lead them away and circle back for Jim.
Decompression.
Sarah, we need to work together.
Do what you want. I'm going to find Jim.
Valerian and Horner escape the Dominion task force, while Kerrigan stays behind to wait for Raynor. In desperation, she takes control of an old Zerg hive on the planet and uses it to destroy the Dominion forces. When they are all dead, a tired, disgusted Kerrigan returns to her dropship, hoping to get word from Jim.
Jim, are you on this frequency? Jim, are you out there? I'm at the rendezvous. It's all clear here. I've been thinking about what you said. There's something dark in me, Jim. I need you. I need you to hear me right now.
Notorious rebel Jim Raynor was captured in a daring raid yesterday. He was briefly interrogated and summarily executed. Emperor Mengsk had this to say.
Proud Dominion citizens, at long last our nightmare is over. The lawless terrorist James Raynor is dead. With his death comes a new era of peace. The Protoss have retreated from our dominion, and the Zerg threat has been removed. Their swarm is shattered and leaderless. Soon, we will eradicate every last Zerg on Char. In short, we have won. Our peace and security is assured. Good night, my faithful subjects.
Mengsk.
Navigation online. Destination Zerg Space. Confirm.
Confirmed.
Devastated, Kerrigan gives up any hope of a better life. Now her entire will is bent toward building a Zerg swarm to break the Dominion and get her to Arcturus Mengsk. The Terran Emperor must pay. As part of that war, she retakes the Zerg hive world of Char, defeating the noble Terran general Horace Warfield.
Lieutenant, get the wounded to those shuttles. Just see to those wounded. I'll get out another way.
Kerrigan, you listen to me. I have 3 shuttles packed with men too injured to ever be a threat to you. Husbands, fathers, you let those shuttles go. You hear me?
General, we're surrounded. There's no way out.
You bitch. You're not even human anymore. You betrayed us all. For what? Petty revenge? How many innocents have you killed? How many more have to die? What if Raina could see you right now?
General, we're surrounded. We're not gonna make it. My position. General, the Zerg pulled back. It's a miracle. We're going to make it. General. General.
Генерал ластой приклеил.
Не надо было Рейнера упоминать, и не понравилось.
The swarm grows. Dominion worlds fall. As she gathers power, Kerrigan begins to sense that she may have a greater purpose, but it has not yet been given form. She sets out to conquer yet another world, traveling on her massive Leviathan, when she senses a familiar, unwelcome presence.
Zeratul. What do you want?
Believe. Kerrigan, I have been to the beginning. Behold, Xeras, birthplace of the Zerg. Here the Zerg evolved. And here, the Dark One altered them. Those left behind are the primal Zerg. They fight. They kill. They evolve. Just as you must, if you survive.
Kerrigan travels to Xeris, birthworld of the Zerg, and discovers the secret of the primals. They are individuals who can steal the essence of their prey and evolve. Tapping into the power of Xeris, Kerrigan willingly undergoes the transformation into the primal Queen of Blades. This will secure her rule over the primals and give her the power she needs to make Mengsk pay for his crimes.
Короче, опять собой пожертвовала, чтобы королевой клинков стать.
The newly reborn primal Queen of Blades learns that Mengsk has a hybrid breeding lab where powerful creatures are spawned, an unholy melding of Zerg and Protoss essence. Kerrigan knows she must shut this lab down before attacking Mengsk. At the heart of the lab, she encounters Narud, a powerful shapeshifter who serves an ancient dead Xel'Naga called Amon. Narud, who seeks to resurrect his master, is the most powerful foe Kerrigan has ever faced.
Face me, Narud. It's over.
It is only beginning. Amon whispered of this from the stars. He told you of his return. He told you of ruin, extinction, the end of all things.
Your god is dead, and he's never coming back.
Is that what you think?
No.
Sarah.
No. You're not him. are not Jim! You are nothing! I'm everything you lost. I am everything you never had. You've already lost. Amon lives. You will.
After recovering from her fight, Kerrigan sets her sights on Mengsk, but the ever-wily Emperor reveals that Jim Raynor is still alive and being held hostage in a Dominion prison. With the help of Valerian and Horner, Kerrigan is able to learn Jim's location, a prison ship called the Moros. She breaks in and finds Jim, knowing all the while that her transformation back into the Queen of Blades has created a rift between them that can never be healed.
I had to get you out.
What have you done?
What I had to.
Tell that to Phoenix. Tell it to the millions you butchered.
You swore you'd kill the Queen of Blades. You were the only one who ever believed in me. Do you still believe in me? I love you, Jim. Never forget it.
We're done.
Она ради него превратилась, он. Все кончено, Мася, вали отсюда. Ты мне не нужна.
With Jim out of danger, Kerrigan is finally able to take her swarm to Korhal and face down Arcturus Mengsk. In the final battle before the palace, Jim Raynor and his raiders join the fight to help Kerrigan. But even when the palace guard is defeated, there remains one last thing for Kerrigan to do.
Hello, Kerrigan. I've been waiting for you.
I'm surprised you haven't tried to escape.
Escape? My dear, I'm afraid you've got it all wrong. Really? Did you think I'd keep an animal like you close to me without some kind of insurance policy? Clearly, you are my greatest failure. Now, at long last, you will die.
Change of plans.
You can never suffer enough for all the lives you've ruined, Arcturus.
I made you into a monster, Kerrigan.
You made us all into monsters. Thank you, Jim. For everything.
My pleasure, darling. Always was.
I now see my true enemy. He waits for me in the void, wielding powers I cannot imagine. I go to face him, having renounced everything. My humanity, my identity, the man I love. But I will not face this enemy alone. I am the swarm.
Just the right time. Cavalry has this course base. Fight down and going down.
The tables have turned. It is epic.
Hi, I'm Sean Day9 Plot from Day9 TV, and we're here at MLG Anaheim to get a sense of what the esports community is like. How'd you get into StarCraft II?
Well, I played StarCraft I since I was about 14. That's professional StarCraft. That's something that they can do that I can't do.
Do you consider yourself the best Protoss player in the world right now?
Of course, why not?
Thousands of fans will spend the next few days watching the best players in the world compete in a number of tournaments, including the headline event, StarCraft II. For the past 15 years, the esports community has rallied behind this fast-paced, real-time strategy game that pits two players in the heat of futuristic warfare. It not only tests one's speed and agility, but also their knowledge of strategy and tactics. Since StarCraft's inception in the late 1990s, alliances formed to create dream teams of professional players who have dominated the tournaments, as countless opponents from across the globe have vied for the title of StarCraft champion. The community that is built up around these tournaments has produced not only a thriving fan base, but also several professional StarCraft leagues, numerous esports commentators, and an independent event scene that has spread worldwide. It all started when Blizzard Entertainment decided to make a new real-time strategy game called StarCraft. StarCraft development began in 1996, and while it was a new universe for Blizzard Entertainment, it was based on all the lessons learned from their previous RTS games, Warcraft and Warcraft II. After some experimentation, the company honed in on a clean, isometric game that pit three warring races on a futuristic battlefield, where they must collect resources,
Not enough minerals.
construct a base,
I read you.
build up an army,
Oh, yeah.
and then find and destroy their opponents. Whether choosing the scrappy Terrans, ferocious swarming Zerg, or the powerful enigmatic Protoss, players fight for strategic positions on the map, looking for any opportunity to take advantage of a strength or an opponent's weakness to get ahead in the battle. But when the expansion pack for StarCraft I was released, Blizzard developers began noticing a change in the player community.
Paul Sams, our COO, was out in Korea, and he came back with pictures of people dressing up like Hydralisks and Protoss units and Terran units, and suddenly it was on a whole nother level.
When the original StarCraft was made, it was designed to be a great game, but it wasn't necessarily designed specifically to be an esport. That was something the community showed us what it could be, how it could be done, and they made that happen.
I remember thinking back then that StarCraft was like an interesting game to watch for sure, but it hadn't quite reached esports level. But when the Koreans started first playing it, guys like Slayers, Boxer, Nada, all those guys, like, yeah, it blew my mind. Those guys took it to a whole nother level. They made it a professional occupation.
Watching these players compete with one another at this level that we had not designed the game at, really. We never tested that in these guys' hands, moving over the keys and moving the UI so much. I just thought the game was going to crash, you know.
These professional gamers were a unique breed. They brought a skill and focus to their game that most other players simply could not. For example, in StarCraft, your APM, or actions per minute, is a quantitative indicator of how fast you can issue commands on the battlefield.
Yeah, and his keyboard.
Man, he's got so much APM, he broke his keyboard. That's hardcore.
A little bit of emergency surgery.
Professional players could maintain up to 300 actions per minute during an entire match of StarCraft. That's 5 keystrokes every second for matches that can last for over an hour.
StarCraft is absolutely a game of inches. It's not like when you get blown out, you were actually that much worse. You just made a few mistakes that you shouldn't have made, and now you're going to get to lose maybe big.
As StarCraft's popularity grew in Korea, new players came from many other countries to compete for the glory of being the best in the world.
Watching these guys play is absolutely inspiring, and in many ways they're all our favorites. Like, it's just amazing to watch these guys play.
But it wasn't just the pros who were pushing the limits of the game. PC bongs, or gaming cafes, sprang up all over Korea, giving amateur players an opportunity to compete with each other, strategize, and learn the secrets of the pros. This fueled the rise in popularity and skills of the players, and drove StarCraft esports even further into the global mainstream.
It was really great to see everyone, really rally behind the players, get really excited, and that's when I feel like
esports really started to take off outside of Korea, where it had always done pretty well.
In 2007, at the Blizzard Worldwide Invitational in Seoul, Korea, fans were in for a surprise with the announcement of Blizzard's newest title, StarCraft II.
드디어 올 것이 왔군.
Are you ready for StarCraft II?
StarCraft II was released in 2010 to much praise. While it continued the same storyline from the original StarCraft, it would also soon become the standard RTS game for competitive esports.
With StarCraft II, we looked at the game from the beginning and said, okay, we want this to be an esport. We want to make it successful. So, let's focus on things like readability, esports balance, on esports features.
The game was built for this. The game was constructed thinking about things like broadcast, observer mode, being able to tell the story of what's going on, not just in-game, but also then latching into the historical stories of the players.
But StarCraft II has really been able to reach out to a bigger audience, a broader audience. More sponsors are getting involved, more companies and restaurants, and lots of additional interest is coming into StarCraft II.
I think with StarCraft II, it has shown that it's really expanded out to become an international phenomenon.
I said to everybody in the company, I was like, StarCraft II is going to be our flagship game. It's the first time we've had something that's got the built-in community and the tools that we're going to be able to do exactly what we've always dreamt of.
Over the last few years, there have been a number of star players to rise from the ranks and show off their particular skills, strategies, and unique playing styles to become StarCraft champions.
And there's people out there whose full-time job is to play StarCraft or to prepare StarCraft or whatever. And it's just amazing to imagine people are creating careers out of this game. And it's extremely humbling.
It really has changed my life. It's given me a job. It's given me everything I wanted. Like, it's allowed me to travel to the US. It's allowed me to travel the world.
And our dream was to travel the world, to see different people, and to compete on the biggest stages. And now in StarCraft II, we're able to do that. I'm in Anaheim now, and I'm going to be in Sweden soon. It's just a dream come true.
Fruit dealer. Here's this guy who was very passionate about the game, practiced it a lot, and basically was helping his family pay the bills by selling fruit. His name, Fruit Dealer, came from this story, and he, as a pro gamer, made a bunch of money out there, got a chance to fly out to the US. All these things came from his skills in playing this game.
All of the energy these guys are pouring into this game and pouring into the entertainment that they're creating around this game is absolutely amazing.
And there's one other thing that's guaranteed to be fantastic, DJ. Wait. Just a little strategy game by the name of StarCraft II!
Pro players aren't the only ones to benefit from the rise in esports. Professional shoutcasting has become as popular as playing the game itself.
Well, StarCraft kind of became my life. I moved to Korea to pursue commentating, actually, and after following the Korean scene, I knew that StarCraft was what I wanted to do with my life. So I just continued on and on and on.
I had made 800 videos in a year, so I don't know the math on that. It's a couple videos every day for an entire year. I absolutely loved it, and it's what I would spend almost all my free time doing, because I totally enjoyed it. It was a hobby.
It was almost by luck, I don't know, an accident, a happy accident, that my coaching was all done via audio. Eventually, one of the teammates said, hey, you should do this like it's a sportscast, and I did, and sort of that was that.
So StarCraft's actually who I am. It's really transformed the way that I see the world, and that's from the way the game works now. It challenges me, and then also outside of the game, how that's impacted the way that my life is set up.
Since the countdown has begun,
I am so stoked. Game 9. Time.
Live events have seen a tremendous rise in attendance across all continents. There are now dozens of live, major esports events taking place around the world each year, with the largest tournaments attracting as many as 20,000 or more attendees.
You think about the first events that we saw with StarCraft II, where, there's a good amount of people, but then the people in the community were like, well, gosh, I want to be a part of that. And then they came, and then they told their buddies, and they wanted to be a part of that, and it truly seemed like the snowball effect.
Just the energy that happens in these big forums when you get all of these gamers together to watch a game they really love is just, it's absolutely amazing.
Last year at MLG Anaheim, I went and I got to watch live, and it's like standing room only. There's so many people there watching StarCraft. The Boxer versus Rain game went for over an hour and a half. And oh my gosh, I can't believe this is going on.
To see that many people excited about StarCraft II and esports, and then to feel like I was part of it, Oh, that was epic.
And that's the thing, is this ability to create these moments where you say, I was there when. I was there when, you know, Huck won after the Koreans had been involved. I was there when Boxer played his first match in Anaheim.
At the Spring Arena 1, it was MKP versus Dongregu. It was Game 7, and it was tense. And the spawn positions were not favored for Dongregu, so the casters were like, oh no, he's going to be really upset.
I mean, let's talk about these spots.
Yeah.
When Marine King finds out where DRG is, he is actually just going to dance, man.
And then he goes for this Baneling bust. It's a really high risky strategy.
Oh my God. Here we go. This is probably going to be decided right this second.
The whole bar is holding their breath. They're like, oh my God, is the Baneling's going to work?
DRG, amazing play here, breaking through.
And then it worked, and DRG won and beat MKP for the first time.
Everything just exploding. Just a moment. Oh, and DRG, he breaks the curse. He is overwhelmed.
DRG has slain a legend.
The changes that happen in the strategy across the game, it's all them. You know, we put in units and we try to make them clean and solid and have a clear role, but we have no idea how anybody's actually going to use any of these things exactly. We make some guesses, but they frequently show us what is possible. I think one of my favorite game moments would be Nesty's use of sort of advanced spine crawlers in a game against a Protoss player where he blocked a fast expand by putting creep in front of the Protoss player's base, and I had no idea what he was doing. I don't think the casters knew what he was doing.
This is important. What's happening? What is he doing? Try to predict it, because I actually do not know what he's doing.
And suddenly there was these spine crawlers all in front of this next. It was absolutely awesome.
Oh my God!
Oh my God,
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
This has a trillion IQ.
I've never seen this before in my entire life.
This game has so much depth and so much going into it that you didn't just sit down and play. It's not a DDR where, like, you're going to dance your feet to a different song. This is, every single game is independent event where you're playing against, sure, maybe a similar opponent, but there's so many different factors that go into it that every game is individual.
You know, baseball is always baseball. And baseball at Yankee Stadium between the Yankees and the Red Sox is always that game, but it's not. Each game is new and fresh. Of course, all of the drama associated with a match between two players, whether it's your favorite player, your most hated player, or whatever, is incredibly exciting, and that's always fresh. You don't know what's going to happen. You're excited to see the result. It's a sport in that sense.
That's what any competitive activity, any sport, that's a beautiful thing about this. And every single time we have these events, we create those moments, both for the people in the room, the thousands of people who show up, but also the hundreds of thousands who tune in.
With the help of new technology, millions of people have viewed tournaments in over 200 countries. Major League Gaming alone broadcast over 15 million hours of Pro Circuit content in 2011. In this same year, Blizzard hosted 7 regional tournaments and televised the finals at BlizzCon with thousands of live spectators.
I think that the growth of esports in general is simply related to changing tastes in media. This generation is into demanding the exact content they want and not settling for anything less. The internet, streaming, YouTube VODs can provide all of that to them with a huge amount of variety available. They can pick their exact taste in commentator.
Yeah.
You can't even do that in real sports.
We can get these games easily all over the world, and you know, people like MLG and GSL, they do this all the time, where they get, you know, people from 180 countries or something insane watching these broadcasts.
500,000 people tuning in at one time during the day, millions of people over the course of a weekend, 175 countries. It's just, the scale is there now because that passion that was evident in those small pockets of community in the beginning those were the seeds, and they've grown and they've spread, and now you see so much more of that.
Just as the StarCraft community helped promote esports in the past, fans today take the lead in transforming local bars to create BarCraft events. There, StarCraft II matches litter the screens to create even more excitement in local communities.
I want to say hi to Andrew from Star Nation at the Austin BarCraft. What's up, guys?
Having beers, having cheers, and watching some amazing StarCraft II.
I think you could really see things change once StarCraft started to happen.
The idea that, you know, you probably could have told someone 6 years ago that you're crazy, like that'll never happen, but look at what, you know, there's like 60 BarCrafts just this weekend.
You know, when there's a big tournament, I usually look and see if there's a local BarCraft here in Irvine,
and it's a lot of fun watching the games live with other fans of the sport.
There's a ton of different types of people that come to these. There's the hardcore StarCraft fans who are staying up till 4 in the morning, and then there's the more casual crowd who just love the idea of watching StarCraft and having a beer.
It's just a good gathering place. Everyone shares a common interest.
Eventually I just met all these guys, and so I kept up to date with Warcraft and especially StarCraft after that.
It's a great feeling to be around those who love the game and can come out and support and watch all these great games that some people might not have access to.
Ultimately, the sport grew because of the passion in the community and the experiences they shared with one another.
Esports community is, I think, at the height that I've ever seen it.
You know, the community has always been the forward pushers, and I think right now the community realizes, you know what? As a collective, we've got a lot of power.
I think it just comes down to straight up passion from the community. Without that, you can't really have esports. It's not possible.
Yeah. StarCraft and Blizzard games, in fact, Blizzard games in general wouldn't be where they are because it's the community that kind of guide Blizzard. It's their feedback that allows Blizzard to then kind of know what is going to make this the best game.
That's what it's all about. It's bringing the community together, supporting them, and giving them, something that they can rally around. Something that they can all come together around and say, you know what, this thing is a great representation of something we love.
There's a secret because it can possibly be. Of doing it. We feel it, kind of smell the potential for victory here, smell the potential to break into the mainstream, get to a point where I can turn on ESPN, on a Saturday night and watch, a great game of StarCraft. Wouldn't that be absolutely awesome?
With an amazing, creative, and proactive esports community, the future looks very bright.
Well, we just had an awesome day here at MLG Anaheim, and with a few more matches to go, we're all about to tune in. So wherever you are, do enjoy Heart of the Swarm and keep spreading the esports love.
Find Kerrigan.
Blizzard is known for these just amazing pre-rendered cinematics, but the limitation there is that since they're so complex, that it's difficult to create a lot of footage. In-game cinematics function as this really cool supplement.
Basically, we make movies using the game engines. We can iterate very quickly.
You get a lot of flexibility and freedom from the speed at which we can work.
That also allows us more freedom to experiment and collaborate.
Basically, we can do a lot more with a lot less. Just helps us develop more story, gives the players more content.
We're able to tell different kinds of stories as well.
Probably one of the best tools we have to tell story. The whole series is about Kerrigan's journey from being the Zerg, her love story with Jim Raynor, and how she dealt with Mengsk.
We have 9 stories to tell to bring her from this point to this point.
I mean, she goes through like this crazy roller coaster ride, chasing after people and killing people, and
she's just like hell-bent on revenge.
But Jim Raynor each try to convince her not to, or to give up the hate and revenge, but they got separated, and she went on a warpath.
The cinematics department works very closely with the game team to come up with first scripts, then storyboards.
We use storyboards as a kind of a gateway into showing people what we're working on.
They give an idea of the depth and of where the camera is supposed to be and where the characters are supposed to be.
And we create a 2D animatic, which is basically a sequence of storyboards linked up together with music, sound effects.
We rough out tremendous number of iterations, and we just keep throwing
new ideas out.
The iteration is just part of the job.
That allows us to experiment and come up with new ideas to try to tell it the sequence as well as we can.
Things will change on the game side, which will change what happens on a cutscene on our end.
The story drives it so quickly that oftentimes we just sketch and just doodle very quickly. It's really about coming with the best story.
Once we have that, we start working on animation, creating models, and putting together a scene.
Previs is the first stage after the storyboards.
Taking our 2D cinematics, 2D storyboards, and put it in a 3D environment.
So we can start to get a feel for the staging, the blocking, the pacing.
We work out the cameras, most of the actions, a little bit of animation.
In the case of Kerrigan, we will place her into the scene in such a way that it exaggerates her moods, her feelings.
Basically tell the story within the shot. What's the story? What's the main point?
Yep, like riding a bike.
Amon Temple, actually, we took a very simple approach.
We shot it as much we could as a live-action sequence.
We plot out the entire sequence, all the animation, in very crude, simple manner.
We would treat the environment as a set, and we would have the characters staged out and say, okay, here are our actors.
And then once that's done, we just go into our InnerSense room, which is our motion capture camera room.
We would have Ben hold the camera. He could actually just take that virtual camera and move around it and shoot it.
So that the shots that we create are more exciting and more alive.
What this process brought us, or showed me, is that even though this place is huge, this temple is huge, we're not going to see a whole lot. So with those information, I went with a more simplistic approach to the temple.
He told you of ruin, extinction.
For the Xel'Naga set, it was kind of a different look. So we kind of wanted to create something that had a little bit more of a mystical feel rather than a futuristic or a visceral feel.
What we did was we actually looked at all temples, super old temples. We wanted to get that ancient feeling.
So we were trying to do a lot of stone inlaid with metal. We looked at a lot of like ancient Egyptian references.
But it needed to be extremely sci-fi.
Open the door, son.
Valerian's orders, sir. No visiting.
Open the door.
We did the lab very first. It was one of the biggest sets we ever built.
We had Kerrigan in a laboratory. It's like a medical environment.
So we looked at a lot of like sci-fi movies, you know, and we kind of wanted to see what do we want from this lab to be. We wanted it to be super high tech, but at the same time, we also wanted it to be a prison.
There was a lot of variety in the different types of pieces that were in the set.
From the elevator to the screen, to the cell room Kerrigan's in, and even the door.
I think that we were definitely thinking about just making something that was sterile to kind of get across this vibe that she's undergoing a lot of testing.
Simple shapes in the tech and in the environment, a lot of lighter colors.
And then just try to combine all that into this, call it fortress, that's kind of just built just for Kerrigan.
Believe. Behold, Xeris.
When Zeratul show a vision of what Xeris is, there's two primal Zerg creatures running around, basically hunting each other.
The idea behind the primals was this was the Zergs on their home planet before they were altered.
We wanted to make them like they could hold their own against the old Zerg and maybe even more.
Prehistoric Zerg, you know, more like dinosaur versions of the Zerg.
They're embodiments of the pure DNA that makes them what they are.
So it's a very nice change from going into the very insectoid Zerg into the more, you know, natural kind of Zerg.
So we didn't want that feeling that they were dirty or grungy or anything like that. They were much more pure.
They fight. They evolve.
We create all these like Zerg creatures. We had to know how they move, We have these really cool concepts, and we assume they're awesome for animation.
But now we have a previs department, and so that helps out a lot. When we get the scenes, we just start animating without having to worry about other things.
The hardest part is actually pushing the animation a little bit further, like style-wise. We did a lot of reference for it. You got to do a lot of reference just to actually bring that to life, because if you try to do it thinking about it in your head, it's going to be really difficult.
A lot more went into it.
We worked in conjunction with the animators, and we made a system where they can essentially make the facial expressions that they need and get those into the rig quickly. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on in Heart of the Swarm. I think the rigs really gave the animators the ability to tell that story in a much more effective way.
It's really down to really subtle details in the face. So we try to push the facial expressions a lot, and then for us, just the general silhouette, the pose is very important. She's still fundamentally human, so making that silhouette that again is covered in spikes like all the Zerg creatures read sad or compassionate takes a little bit more work.
Her attitude, her animation gets more and more intricate.
Because this is Kerrigan's campaign, we really had to step it up and make sure she looks awesome.
For the most part, she's this badass chick who's gonna go kick everyone's butt.
She definitely has her own way that she holds herself.
Her walk is different, and then she grew high heels.
In the last cutscene that we did, we couldn't quite get the feel of a woman. Everything that we did, all the walks and all the stances, it was kind of like, it felt like a guy doing it, not really like a woman doing it. So we had to call in Tina, and she has heels and was wearing her heels and had the feel that we wanted.
Face me, Narude.
We had to come up with the deserted Kerrigan. So we had to come up with the whole phase of what she looks like as not ghost Kerrigan, but almost like a prisoner Kerrigan.
From the last game, we had like a Zerg version of her, and we had to sort of like humanize her face, trying to incorporate textures that were more friendly, you know, and then...
Oh, obviously her dreads. We kept her dreads from Wings of Liberty. We had to hit certain look for when she was a ghost.
At the same time, you know, it's Kerrigan, you know, she's got to be sexy, she's got to be hot, so a lot of effort went into actually designing the suit, you know, make sure she looks good in that.
Still want to tell people that she's not fully ghost, because we associate ghost kind of with that bluish glow. So I'm giving her that orange glow. It's mostly all about color. As far as her display of her power,
it just goes from being subtle to over-the-top crazy.
We start with her being more ghost-oriented, so we're looking to like more psionic, so she can lift off people, crush objects.
You don't want to see her powers, but kind of hint her potential, because at the point you don't know that she's going to turn into Zerg again.
As the story progresses, she kind of evolves back into, she becomes a Queen of Blades again. And this is after she goes to Xeris and she gains her powers back.
We started looking into more Zerg power. How does she use her wings? How does she incorporate the swarm into her fight?
Everything, just all hell breaks loose at that point.
She transforms, and all of a sudden now she's a more badass Kerrigan. She controls all Zerg now.
She got the bioluminescent pattern on her body, her face.
Her colors are subtly changing to more saturated purples and more deeper colors.
The color represents pretty much her mood.
When Kerrigan gets upset, she amplifies her power through, you know, we visualize it through her bioluminescence. It kind of glows a little bit more.
The mood of the lighting and all the effects, everything ties in together pretty nicely.
What have you done?
What I had to.
We're a team that tries to get as much value for the work that we do as we can.
We want to be great storytellers, be able to churn out a lot of story.
We pour a lot of love, a lot of our sweat and blood into these cinematics.
And I think it definitely shows.
I think people are really going to like it once it gets out into the wild.
It's pretty impressive the amount of work that such a small group puts out.
It's scary and daunting at first, but we all had a lot of fun.
The VO process is not one that a lot of people have a lot of visibility into.
The world of voiceover is really exciting and very in-depth. Good voiceover is like a breeze blowing through. You don't even notice it because it feels so real and natural.
I think a lot of people think that voice acting is, oh, it's so simple because you just
show up in your pajamas.
But what people don't realize is so much work goes into that.
And I just don't think people think that. I think they hear the lines and they kind of move on with the experience of the game. And I think the great thing about that is if they're not paying attention to it, then we did our job.
So the first step that we take in voiceover is really talking about our characters. There's a whole lot of brainstorming and collaboration that goes on.
We spend a lot of time early on in story meetings really discussing, the arcs of these characters.
Because it's very important to us that our characters experience life just as we do.
If you don't believe these characters, to believe how they're reacting to things or the plausibility of their plight, then it's all for nothing.
Then the next step is casting.
Sir, Dominion ships warping in. Mengsk's flagship is leading them.
Sweet mother of mercy.
I make what I call a casting document that really highlights everything we're looking for a character. I send it out to all the voiceover agents.
We get a ton of applicants.
We're always kind of looking for people that can come in and really just, tap a certain chord, a certain emotional resonance.
Because if you get the right person, matched up to that right role, you have pure magic.
It's kind of one of those things that when it's right, everybody knows it. We all just sort of look at each other and it's a no-brainer.
Nicely done, stand by. A whole lot of work goes into that first day of recording. And I've got to say, voice actors on video games are my heroes.
These poor actors go through hours of torture with us.
They come to the recording studio not really knowing a whole lot about what they're doing, and we all sit down and talk on the couch. They'll talk about the storyline, what's going to happen to this character in game. We look at artwork together.
To see someone's conception of come to life of what the character was just totally inspiring.
Yeah, all those drawings, all that helps because it gives you a place to start as an actor.
Voice actors come into a recording studio with no props, no set, no hair and makeup, no other actors, and they perform.
I think sometimes when the actor comes in and really inhabits a character, there's things you hear in the character that you didn't really hear before.
How well do you know yourself?
You have to draw on your own personal experiences, warts and all.
You have to own your character is what you have to do.
No matter what we want going into it, no matter how much of control freaks we are, the actors always make it their own.
Hello, Kerrigan. I've been waiting for you.
I'm surprised you haven't tried to escape.
Escape? My dear, I'm afraid you've got it all wrong.
One of the most important people that I need to have with me in recording is the writer.
I think a lot of times as we're scripting video games, so often you're trying to just make the lines work and bring out maximum character from anyone in the scene.
Writing is absolutely crucial, and I think the writing in this game is what gives us all a leg up. Every one of the actors a leg up on their characters.
What I was really happy about was that the writers had also created so much more there to work with as a performer.
I don't think there are any characters in this game that are boring and bland. From the hero down to the vilest of the villains. That would be me, of course.
I was called upon to serve the greater interest of humanity. Personal power was never my goal.
The character of Mengsk is always this big anchor for the series. You got all these crazy aliens and all these desperate heroes, and Mengsk is right there in the middle, kind of manipulating everything.
Mengsk mesmerizes me. He justifies for himself all of the ends that he goes to save his kingdom and save the people.
I wanted him to have just incredible power and weight, even though he wasn't this alien demigod. He's just this politician who will go to any length to get what he needs, right or wrong.
An actor can't just go out and play bad. You can't do that. You have to have some justification. If Arcturus is egomaniacal and if he's doing this all for himself, that's for others to judge. I can't play him that way.
Belay that order. We're moving out. Prepare to move away from Tarsonis on my mark.
So when James Harper came in, he walked in, he was just the man, right? I'm like, whoa, I was a little intimidated.
Well, first originally getting cast was 1997. I was really happy to have the job.
But once he fell into the character and he just started doing this kind of Virginian thing, my fellow Terrans, right? He just owned it and it just started pouring out of him like molasses.
I assure you, this criminal will be brought to justice.
Whatever I thought the character would sound like and whatever I wanted him to feel like in terms of the script, James just put it just over the moon.
It was, I just remember thinking that how cool is this? How how much fun is this to do? And I had no idea at the time it would go to where it is today.
I was really excited to get James back in. You know, 10 years on, it was a little more grit, a little more vocal texture to his voice, and it was just perfect.
I love your gumption, son, but we're in way over your head. What makes you think you have the experience to...
He ain't alone, Arcturus.
Reyna.
You know, when we cast Wings of Liberty, it had been many years since the original StarCraft game. We were all kind of wondering, you know, how the original cast would do. It had been something like 10 years.
In the case of Rayner, there was a time there where we were really looking at the character and talking about who he was and how he's going to evolve in these new chapters.
When I did the first game back in 1998, I was really not aware of the impact that StarCraft had. Basically it was a job for me.
You know, the game hasn't been out in a long time. Should we be thinking about kind of like stars to come in? You know, people with some name cred on the street.
It wasn't really that we wanted to move away from him. It was just that we were looking to broaden his scope.
What was interesting about coming back 10 plus years later was that there was obviously going to be an evolution to the character.
We listened to all these different actors, and we just realized that the original guy nailed it.
He got into that booth and just killed it.
I moved heaven and earth to bring you back, Sarah. I never gave up on you, Sarah. Don't you give up on us!
And every time we looked at the art and we heard Robert's voice, it was perfect.
I get a second chance at being part of the experience.
Robert will find things for Jim Raynor that we didn't expect, because maybe we haven't yet thought out about Jim's reaction or thoughts to this.
He's incredibly human, and I think that's one of the things that people identify with him. It's not guaranteed that he's going to succeed. He's come from a very, very tough life. And as a person, I've been there. I've been to those dark places. I've been depressed, sad. I've had loss in my life. And you just allow all of that to come to the surface.
Titus, what have you done?
I made a deal with the devil, Jimmy.
We all got our choices to make.
I'm so glad that he came back in, because he is just the heart of the whole thing, and just that texture and richness of Raynor's voice, it's just kind of this anchor point through the series.
To wake up in the morning and know that I get to go down to the studio and be the voice of Jim Raynor, I mean, come on, to be honest with you, that doesn't suck.
The killing will never stop until Minsk is dead. I'm going to make him pay.
That's enough of that.
It's the sound of the voice that tells you almost more about who that character is. With Kerrigan, with so many different layers to her, she's maybe the most complex character in any of our Blizzard storylines.
My first thoughts of this character, that it was going to be so much fun, because there was such a wide range.
We knew that this was a very tragic character. So in Wings of Liberty, we got to see her being left behind and being abducted by the Zerg. And then we also knew that she was going to evolve into this Queen of Blades, this very vicious, cunning figure. And we needed someone who could play both sides.
So that was just such a vast array that as an actor, you want those type of roles.
When we had Trisha come in and audition, she just hit a vocal sound that just broke our hearts.
Jim, are you out there?
I need you. I need you to hear me right now. She's just such a well-rounded character, which you don't often see in video games. You often see you're the good character, you're the fighter, you're the evil, you're the alien, this, and she's now all of it.
Of all these changes that she goes through, and all the emotional layers that she goes through, it was critical that you had a voice that could ease you into all of that.
Now in Heart of the Swarm, she's been de-Zergified, but she remembers some things, but not everything. So there's a lot more vulnerability because she's lost.
She's, a woman who's been really beat around by life, and is desperate to kind of find her core.
There's a mission to her and to her life and where she has to go, but there is so much vulnerability to who she is. She doesn't know who she is anymore. She's strong, but she's got all this guilt and anger bubbling.
The lawless terrorist, James Raynor, is dead.
The sound of her needs to be very, very specific, and the range of emotions we, can project are going to be very, very specific.
The voice isn't that different. It's not like, I'm sweet for Kerrigan and I'm mean for Queen and, I'm somewhere in between. It's the same, it's just the intention. But you do try it different ways and then the character develops from that. I'm coming for you, Minsk, and you won't have any hybrid to protect you.
She needs to sound human above all else. She needs to sound like just someone that could live next door. We felt that Trisha just absolutely hit that and really brought, a level of emotionality to Kerrigan that is critical in terms of the end user, the player, ultimately really identifying with the character.
Kerrigan is such a story. I just find it really, really intense, her story in this game. So I can't wait to get the fan reaction from Heart of the Swarm.
For I am the Queen of Blades.
Hi, my name is Brent Wood. I'm a software engineer on the StarCraft II team here at Blizzard. Today we're going to be taking a look at the StarCraft II editor, which is a tool that you can use to create maps and mods for StarCraft II. This editor is the same program that we use internally to create all of our campaign missions and even the story mode in between missions. So this is a very powerful and robust tool, and we're definitely not going to be able to cover everything that the editor can do in this tutorial. And as we go through the tutorial, you'll see on the screen a ton of different buttons and options and data. And we're really just going to focus on the specific pieces that we need to create the tutorial map. The map that we're going to be making is a simple single-player mission where the player is controlling a Terran patrol squad that's exploring a canyon and encountering enemy Zerg along the way. There'll be 3 Zerg encounters. First will be a simple discovery of Zergling units on the canyon floor. The second will be an ambush by Hydralisks from on top of the canyon walls. And then finally, there'll be battle at a Zerg base at the end of the canyon. And as we're developing this map, we're also going to load it into the game periodically to test it out and review our progress. And we'll see that frequent testing of the map in game can help you iterate on the map's design. So the tutorial is broken down into 5 different parts. In part 1, we're going to begin with a general overview of the editor toolset, and then we're going to create our map and set up some basic properties for it, and then see how to load it into the game for testing. In part 2, we're going to create the map's environment, including terrain, cliffs, and textures, and also doodads to complete the look of the map. And then we'll start adding units, including the Terran units and the initial Zergling encounter. In part 3, we're going to learn about regions, endpoints, and triggers, and see how to put those all together to create the Hydralisk ambush event. In part 4, we will add the Zerg base at the end of the canyon, and also learn how to use custom data to adjust the strength and appearance of individual units. And then finally, in part 5, we'll set up the map for the BattleNet Arcade, and then publish it to the service so everyone can play it and enjoy it. So let's get started. In part 1, we're going to start out with a general overview of the editor toolset, and then we're going to create the map and set up some basic properties for it, and also see how to load it into the game. So the editor is made up of multiple different windows, which we call modules. And they can be seen in the toolbar with the blue buttons, and they can also be accessed from the modules menu. First module is the terrain module, and here is where you create the map environment, including terrain, cliffs, and textures. And you can also add objects to the world, including units like marines or hatcheries, anything that the player can control in the game. And also doodads, which don't affect the gameplay and are just used to increase the visual appeal of the map. The second module is the trigger module. This represents the game's scripting system, and here you can set up scripted events or also custom gameplay rules. The next module is the data module, and this contains all of the data values used by the game. And here you can customize pretty much anything in the game. This can be as simple as changing the life total for a unit, or it could be something as complicated as creating an entirely new ability and special effects from scratch. A new document. And first you have to choose what type of document you're creating. There's several different options. A melee map is just a standard StarCraft II map that doesn't have any custom triggers or custom data. Training map can have custom triggers or custom data, but the gameplay in the map is still fundamentally melee. This could be maps for practicing or testing your melee combat skills, or it could also be melee games that have special events like lava rising on the low ground. Next, we have arcade maps, which show up in the BattleNet Arcade, and these can be any type of custom map with no limitations. Finally, you can create mod files, which can contain custom data or triggers to be shared between multiple maps. So we'll be creating an arcade map. The next step is to choose dependencies, which defines what data is available for the map to use. You can use our standard data, or you could also use custom dependencies. This is where you would add any custom mods made by you or other players. We're going to be using Heart of the Swarm data and including the campaign data. And then finally, you configure the initial terrain for your map. We're going to leave the default size of 128, and we're going to be using the Xeris texture set. And you click OK, and your map is created. Now, when you first create a map, there's several properties that you should configure right away. The first is to give the map a name and description. That can be done in the Map Info dialog under the Map menu. So we'll set up a name for our map. This is for one player. We'll give it a description. All right, another thing you should do when you create a map is to determine how many players the map is for. And you can set that up in the Player Properties dialog, also in the Map menu. And by default, a map will have one player, which is user-controlled. Since this is a single-player map, we're just going to add one computer enemy player. So we'll change the controller for player 2 to computer. That's all we need to do in here. And for custom maps, another important step is to remove the melee trigger. So we'll jump over to the triggers module. And you can see that maps by default have a trigger called melee initialization, which sets up all of the melee gameplay for the map, including starting resources, starting units, computer AI. So we don't want any of that for our map, so we're going to go ahead and choose clear to get rid of it. And we'll jump back to the terrain module. And now our map is more or less set up, so this is a good place to save the map. I'll just save it to the desktop here. Game to test it out. There's a function called test document, and if you click that, it'll just launch StarCraft II and load your map right into it. So here's our map. There's obviously not much to see yet since we haven't added anything. When we want to go back to the editor, we can just hit Alt-Tab. That'll minimize the game, and you can actually leave the game running while you're working on your map in the editor. That'll make it faster to load it the next time you want to test it. So that's the end of part 1. In part 2, we're going to start creating the map environment by adding some terrain, cliffs, and textures, and we're also going to add the initial units so we have a playable map. All right, so now we're going to be working in the terrain module, and we're going to first go over some of the basics of what the terrain module can do, and then we're going to add terrain cliffs and textures to our map, as well as some doodads to make it a little more visually appealing. And then we'll create some initial units for the Terran player, as well as for the first Zerg encounter. So in the terrain module, you can see on the right is the 3D world view. And to navigate that view, you use the various camera controls with the mouse. The first thing you can do is if you hold down the right mouse button and drag, you'll move the camera around. If you hold down the control key and then use the right mouse button and drag, you can rotate the camera up and down and left and right. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom out and back in. And then you can double click the middle mouse button to reset to the default camera settings. And you can also left click on the mini map and drag around to move the camera that way. Now in the terrain module, there are multiple layers for working with different parts of the map data. These are seen using the orange buttons in the toolbar. It can also be one and the game and victory.
You can also use spacebar to play selected that option. Now with the and choose Add Animation Layer. I hope you really enjoyed these series of tutorials. I can't wait to see all of your awesome cutscenes up on Battle.net.
В общем, вот такие вот у нас материальчики получились со StarCraft 2. Подписываемся, ребят, ставим лайк, если вам понравилось. Это с коллекционного набора. Вряд ли есть еще где-то выложенное. Надо вообще проверить будет. Интересно. Ну, в общем, вот так вот. Всем удачи, ребят, всем пока. Спасибо, что были со мной. Все, удачи вам.